Hey, I'm in the middle of a run. Oh, there's bees. Look at all those bees. I don't know if you can see them. I just stood up. I was sitting down for a second to write down the words to the song that I was listening to. So a couple nights ago, I'm in such a good mood. Oh, a dragonfly. Whoops. All right, so ground yourself. Oh, there's the sun. All right, so you guys know, maybe you know, I've been thinking a lot about, trying to be out of my head, being present more, and my relationship with silence and with presence. And for me, like I always grew up knowing Christ to a certain degree, and then once I came into a more contemplative form of life, I learned about him on a completely different level, but not learned in my head. I did a lot of that before. But to me, he represents the full welcoming of male and female. Oh, there's like rainbow. And so, like to me, he represents the feminine and the masculine. But more than that is this representation of this silence and going into the silence. And all my meditations, I've been doing these meditations almost every day for the past 4 years or so with this woman that's been helping me. You know, she does it for free. It's part of her. I send her money for her time sometimes because I want to, but it's part of a thing called spiritual direction. You can find a spiritual director that knows how important this is and had one in her life for a long time. And so anyway, she doesn't tell me what to do per se, but helps me along the way. You know, we meet. Anyway, so in that though, I've learned to know Christ and that presence and that silence on a much deeper level. But it's still intimidating to go into the quiet, you know? And, but I feel like that's where Christ dwells. That's where he acted from and he lived in. And I'm not trying to make any of my videos religious by any means. It's just understanding our true spiritual nature and we are souls here living in bodies. And so, I'm going to get my breath back from running still. And I'm going to run back after this. Or I plan to. I always say that, you know, I try not to, if something happens, then, you know, like, I feel like, anyway, so the other night, I was going to say, in my silence, when I'm silent, you know, sometimes I get downloads, like I say, or sometimes I hear things, or things stick out. Like if you're looking at this landscape, and like when I first looked around, those bees stood out, you know, just having fun, playing, getting their food, hanging out. I don't know, you might see a landscape, and I'll go slower. I forget, you guys aren't seeing the whole panorama like I am. Something may stand out, like in a song that you hear, or in words that you're reading, or in a billboard, or on a license plate, or this is your intuition trying to get your attention to go into the presence. Maybe some of it is just to remind us to go back into that quiet presence, you know, and nothing else. You don't have to change all these things or do spiritual gymnastics and all the stuff that I'm always like, you know, because you can have a spiritual ego that's like, oh, I need to do all these things and then I'll be more spiritual, you know, and it's not about that. But what I was going to say is a couple nights ago, my friends were playing outside, you know, they're in an 80s band, and I went to go get a drink because I was so thirsty, and there was this long line, but so I hadn't had anything, you know, I had been dancing for a little bit, I was thirsty, so I was waiting in this long line, but I heard one of their songs playing. It's a song called The Promise by Win in Rome. And I forgot what song it was in the moment, but I heard it. And I'll play my clip. I'll plan to play it. I looked just like this actually the other night, because I was just like, I love this song. You know, it was speaking to something in me in that night, and I couldn't even remember what the song was, but I just knew in my soul I loved it, and it's what's resonating. And so today on my run, you know, I got my playlist for running songs, but I just had this song on repeat so I could listen to it. And so when you're running and you get that runner's high and the feeling, and it doesn't always have to be, it's not chasing a high. Believe me, like I'm not recommending that. It's just when it comes, you know, you cherish it and relish it and be present with it, and it's beautiful. And so it reminded me that oftentimes when I'm doing my meditation, there's nothing. There's like, I'm not getting anything. I don't understand the short passage that I'm reading that I'm meant to be contemplating and just letting marinate in me, or me be present with it or interact with it. But always, always, always I get this sense, you know, I think maybe the Greek word for the Holy Spirit is parakletos. It's like someone who's always with you, who comes when you call, who will never leave you. And so that's the promise that I hear when I'm present with Christ in my heart, is I promise you I will never leave you, I will never forsake you. I don't do that, you know, I'll never pull the rug out from under you or whatever. So it's like, that's the promise, but in that promise, it triggers all my fears of intimacy as I enter into that silence. And so there's part of me that wants to run from that and go to other things that also promise, you know, but they're more tangible. So it's like, you know, if you knew that cereal made you feel better, then you kept running to cereal, or you knew that you thought that a person was going to make you feel better, or a car, or a certain circumstance, or if I achieve this, you know. And so instead of going into this quiet presence and experiencing that and seeing what happens, like if we're rejected in childhood, I know this, and this is in a lot of my other videos, then we feel like, what if I go into that silence and I just find myself in this deep place, deeply rejected, you know? And we don't want that. We don't want to risk that. So we run from it, because that's not going to feel good, you know? And so our egotism, and it's not like it's this horrible thing. It's just understanding. It's like when you know better, you do better, or when you have higher consciousness, there's more light on in the room, so you see what's going on. So you're not manipulated by all the circumstances, by everything. And so let me think if there was anything else that was standing out in the song. So there's this one part, sometimes when I shout, and I looked at that as like me getting triggered and shouting back at God, you know, because I don't feel like God is shouting at me ever. Except I just remembered C.S. Lewis's words. He says, pain is God's megaphone to rouse a deaf world. And not that God willingly inflicts pain upon us, it's just when we keep going off the yellow brick road, you know, off the path, then we experience a lot of pain, because we're looking for something less than the divine love, your soul, this quiet in your soul self, the presence, the stillness. We're looking for something else to fill us up that won't fill us. And so the pain is just there to tell us, no, this thing isn't it, you know, this person, this thing, this circumstance, this property, this whatever you have. So I'm going to sing a little bit of the song, and if I don't like it, or if I want to put myself with my guitar after this, I'll do that. I don't know yet what I'll do, because I have the rest of my run, and then I have an appointment and another appointment. All right, so I haven't sung yet this morning, but I'm going to try to sing some of it here. But I feel like sitting down for this. All right, so to me, again, this is like my soul, Christ, the divine love, telling me what it promised to me. Like it's beyond he and she, and what love promised to me before I came here. That love would still love me, and love would call me to these high places, and bring this sweetness to my soul. That my soul would keep longing for it and keep walking towards it. And then I promised before I came here, this is just an impression that I get, that I would follow love and I would let go of all else. And so it reminds me, like, what about my promise to be fully committed and let go of anything that gets in the way of, like my fear from old childhood wounds or from conditioning or from whatever, of intimacy, of closeness with the divine in my heart. All right, I'm just going to stand back up. All right. Okay, so this is still, I sometimes keep talking because I don't want to sing yet. All right. There's a long opening that gets you warmed up, but hopefully my words just did. So be in a contemplative place. If you need a friend, don't look to a stranger. You know in the end, I'll always be there. When you're in doubt, and when you're in danger, take a look all around. You know I'll be here. Sorry, but I'm just thinking of the right words to say. I know they don't sound the way I planned them to be. If you wait around a while, I'll make you fall for me. I promise you, I promise you, I will. All right, okay, there goes. When your day is through, and so is your temper, you know what to do. I'll always be there. Sometimes if I shout, it's not what's intended. These words just come out with no gripe to bear. I'm sorry, but I'm just thinking of the right words to say. I know they don't sound the way I planned them to be. If I had to walk the world to make you fall for me, I promise you, I promise you, I will, I will. All right. I want to say, because this is what comes to my heart, is to have faith, walk in faith. This is the knowing but not knowing. You're walking in blindness in a lot of ways. But I just keep being reminded that the divine will keep calling me to itself. Highest love will call my heart to highest love, and my heart will keep longing for it and keep walking towards it. And so as much as I fear that I'll miss this path, or I'll fall off this path, or, I'll forget, and there's times when we do. And I mean, the saints and stuff, like, say, if you have that golden thread and you can feel it now, stay with it, because you don't know. I mean, they're really, they talk about how treacherous it can be, and not to let it go. But I do know that. I do know that from my spiritual experiences. Just take the opportunity that's in front of you now, because we don't know how clear it will be later. And right now it's clear to our souls. enjoy the stillness. If you guys have your intuition developed, whatever you pick up too, you know. Because the other day I was listening to this guy give this talk, and it was like I got all these impressions about the inner meaning of what he was saying, and then he proceeded to say that same thing, like tell this deep inner meaning, and I wasn't expecting him to go there. It's a wise man, but I didn't know that he would do that. I will, when you're in doubt, when you're in danger, take a look all around, I'll be there. Something like that. I like that. I loved you more. Oh, dear. This moment just couldn't be any better.